Do I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 20?
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and second. A roll call, please.
Alice?
Yes.
DeFaro?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Cromer?
Yes.
And Hudson.
Yes. Okay, at this time, I'll open the meeting to the general public for any discussions that would like to come forward and speak on behalf of their concern in the township. State your name.
My name's Chris Tomorrow.
Okay, to the mic there. And
spin it
swing it around, yeah. How you doing, Chris?
Good, how are you?
Good. Address, Chris?
My address is 135 Thompson Lane, number 57.
Okay,
That's at the Egg Harbor River Resort.
okay.
I currently stay there. Myself, along with quite a few others, have come in here tonight because there is an issue, a misunderstanding, I hope, about whether or not we're allowed to stay. We're really confused right now. We have really no idea what happened that the township wants for us to leave what we understood to be a place we could stay all year. I'm calling it a misunderstanding because we believe it is. I tried to call to have a meeting. I requested a private meeting. I didn't get that. I really felt this was a discussion that we should have had to come to an understanding and try and understand how 40-plus people are going to be without a home because of a misunderstanding. I don't know what else to say. I feel ill at ease that I actually have to explain why this is a bad thing. This ordinance that exists was an ordinance that many people for up to 17, 18 years weren't aware of. What happened? When I tried to reach out to get some general questions answered, I was told I should have done my due diligence. Reputable realtors sold places in here and said we could stay there year round. We didn't understand. There was only so much that we could do. We asked the right questions. I can speak for myself. We spoke with people who've been there for almost 18 years. And now we feel as though we're being told we have to go somewhere and sorry. We're not your enemy. We've just been misled. And we just want to work out some type of solution that's reasonable and rational. We're not asking to change anything that can't be modified. We're talking about an ordinance that we weren't aware of. And we'd like to have some type of dialogue with you and come to some type of conclusion that doesn't put over 45 people on the street come November 1st. We're law-abiding. We found out about a lot of this through the township committee minutes. We didn't even know we needed to defend ourselves from anything. I don't know what to ask for. I'm obviously angry. I'm confused. I'm scared. And so is everybody else who's standing and strong with me. I'm here to ask you one more time, will you please meet with me? Will you please help us to come to a resolve that's not only amicable but fair? I really wish we could have just talked about this, and I didn't know what else to do to get your attention. We were misled, and I think that there were a lot of mistakes made on a lot of parts. And I think that should be up for discussion. I don't think it should be up for public discussion. We want to work with you. We don't want to cause any grief. I mean, even when we read some of the things that were in the minutes dating back to February and April, we don't even know where these complaints are coming from. And we're confused as to whether or not these complaints spawned all this. I feel as though without coming here and standing up, this matter looks extremely black and white when it's not. It's gray. And you know, we're asked every day by the government, local to be understanding of gray areas. Now, we as the public are asking you, can we talk about this gray area? Can we talk about something and come to an amicable resolve?
I don't have any problem talking about it, and I've talked to some residents out there that have called. I'll defer to our solicitor about the ordinance, how long it's been in existence, and why it's the way it is, and that it's not new. This is not brand new. Like you said to yourself, it's been 18 years. That's a seasonal campground. Okay, now, what realtors, reputable realtors are not told you or didn't tell you, that's not what our ordinance says about the use of that property. Mr. Friedman, or you?
Thank you, Mayor.
I just, because there's litigation, I'd let Mr. Friedman, our solicitor, respond to your questions.
How do you do? As the mayor says, I think that a dialogue after tonight's meeting would be in order, and we'd be happy to meet with you. I could tell you that the premise of where the township is coming from is that the property there has been always zoned and has always had a use as a campground, which is a seasonal use. It's fashioned after a state statute that calls for seasonal use. So it's not as if the township has gone out of its way to create an ordinance to make it more onerous to live in a campground. As a matter of fact, our ordinance is a little bit more lenient than the state statute. State statute basically calls for it to be open just for the season, which would expire in November. But the township that amended its ordinance in 1994 essentially allowed the occupancy to continue on weekends and during certain holidays during the off-season. So when you talk about being misled, have no doubt about it, there's no misleading on the part of the township. It's been on the books for a long time. So whoever told you or whoever made statements that you relied upon, it's nobody to do with the township government. It's to do with the people that you were in contact with at the time that you purchased it, and the people who perhaps were in charge of the facility during the time you were there. Now, the owner's attorney is right here in the audience. That's where the dialogue or the misunderstanding needs to really be rectified, quite frankly.
I guess where the confusion comes in, when was this, how are people supposed to know if it was never enforced?
Well, the township has many ordinances on the books, and those ordinances are, the township doesn't go looking for problems. The township doesn't look to see where we could issue violations or make life difficult for people. In Egg Harbor Township, our governing body is really triggered by complaints. Somebody says, this person, my neighbor's not taking care of their lawn. This one is leaving debris around their house. And we had a complaint that was brought to our attention last, I guess, 3, 4, 5 months ago, that there were tenants that were occupying the property on a full-time basis. And it creates a whole array of issues for the township in the fact that there are full-time residents living there without paying any real estate taxes, getting the benefit of municipal services, perhaps attending schools, in a place that is...
We're not allowed to attend schools. See, this is disturbing because, again, we find all this out within the township minutes.
Could I interject one thing,
Sure.
Mr. Morrow? This is not, the owner of this property has been in court with the township on several occasions over allowing winter residency there. In 2006 or 2007, he signed a order with the court where he agreed that he would make sure every one of his tenants know the township regulations, and he was required to provide you with an annual copy which said that you can't be there between that period of time. He did it for a while, then he stopped doing it. He was in court this spring, and he was reminded that he wasn't doing that, so that's why you all received your notices probably in the last 6 weeks, is that he was fined in here for allowing you people to live there during the winter.
So this ruling was in 2008?
No, this ruling is a result of an ordinance.
No,
We
no,
took
but I
him
mean,
to
the ruling
court.
No, the
We
ruling
were
you're
in-
referencing
Yeah,
was in 2008.
we were in court with him
We took him to
10
court.
years later,
We took him to court in the early 90s.
twice.
Because he attempted to have year-round residency in a campground, and he agreed he wouldn't do it. In 1994, we made the amendments at Mr. St. James's request because he was sold people units, homes there. And he said, these people, they made this investment, so the Township Committee in 1994 said, you can be there on weekends in the off-season, and we gave you 5 holidays to be in. We discovered in 2006 that he was violating that. We took him to Superior Court for that violation. As a result of that violation, he signed an agreement with the township saying he would not permit any year-round residency in the park, and he would provide annual notice to whoever's at the park that they're not allowed to be there. Somewhere along the way, he stopped doing that. And then this year, back in November, we started getting complaints from neighbors on Thompson Lane that there are people in there, a lot of people in there. We found 19 people living there year-round. We cited the owner for those 19 violations. He came to court, admitted he had people violating our ordinance living in there, and agreed that he would be in compliance with our ordinance from that day forward. So he left here, and whether he or his attorney sent notices to everybody that here's a copy of the township code, you're not allowed to be here full-time after November 1. So that is why Mr. Friedman implied that your relief may be with the attorney who represents Mr. St. James and not with the 5 people sitting here.
Oh, no, and I'm a firm believer in starting at the top of things. And I do apologize if I've taken the wrong path. I guess, I just gotta leave you with this. I can't speak for everybody else in here, but I guess what's most concerning about what you just shared is if this occurred a decade ago, why didn't anybody follow up?
Okay, I don't send a police officer every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to go check on if somebody's sleeping in the campground.
You do it if you know that there was something illegal. Sir,
Wait, one at a time, one at a time. You'll do your
I
turn.
just wanted to pose the question.
I have-
And I would
Okay.
very much
As
like
Mr.
to have a dialogue outside of the public.
As Mr. Friedman said, it's a complaint-driven thing, so no one at Thompson Lane was complaining. Our police officer probably drives down Thompson Lane once every other week or so, or when there's a call for service. And they have the owner has a full-time manager on the premises who is supposed to be enforcing the township ordinance as a licensed campground. It appears that person wasn't doing their job to enforce it and tell you people that. So there's a lot of responsibility on the owner of the campground, their management people, to leave you to believe that you could be there full-time 12 months a year.
And I'll leave you with this. I believe I've left my number before. I would very much like to discuss this in private because I really think there's an awful lot to this. And I just think that responsibility falls in more than one party's lap in this. I've managed people before. I can't imagine what it's like to manage a township, but I've managed people before, and whenever they've misbehaved or done something wrong or even created somewhat of a short history of doing things maybe not the right way, I would tend to follow up and make sure that it wasn't happening. But that's just my opinion. I just feel like this matter requires a much longer conversation than something in private, and I would truly appreciate if we could come to some type of result. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Anyone else? Did you, yes, young lady was, come on up.
I would just like to know if there's any way.
I just don't want you to repeat yourself. We know the problem, we know your problem.
Yes.
Your name,
Is Kathleen,
and I also live at Egg Harbor River Resort.
Okay.
And I would just like to know, I mean, if this is all falling on Mr. St. James, that he was the one telling us we could live there and we actually aren't supposed to be there full time, is there any way that the township would grandfather us in, who are already residing there, who have our homes there? I mean, because if we have to leave, all our homes are sitting there, we're not gonna be able to sell them right away, and we can't afford to live in two separate properties. Is there any way that the township would consider grandfathering us in? And then, I mean, if we have to go, let us sell our homes for what we feel they're valued for, and let us go. But until then, could we just live there, and anyone else coming in would be told that they could not live there full time? Because I know there's some counties that have done that. I don't know if you guys can or not, but we just think about it.
Mr. St. James's attorney had approached me on a number of occasions, both before and after the matter went to municipal court, indicated that she wanted to sit down and talk with me about the situation. You are not unsympathetic towards the plight
No, none of us
of
are.
residents, of the people who are residing and your neighbors in that particular facility. There are other campgrounds that are in the township, so there are other considerations that this governing body must consider in looking out for all of its citizens. But despite her asking to sit down and my acceptance of that invitation, I haven't heard boo from her. So I'm very interested to hear as to what communications you may have had with the owners. Township is without any document.
I'm not really being told anything, sir.
Okay, well, I haven't seen one stitch of documentation. I don't know what your sales agreements say, what your leasing agreements say, and to tell you the truth, it's a private matter between yourselves and the owner of the campground. It is a legal matter. My suggestion is that you consider getting legal counsel involved in this matter sooner rather than later.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, sir?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Christos Angeles.
And your
I live
address,
at
Mr.
Egg Harbor Timber Resort. I've been there for close to 16 years. When I bought the place, the park manager at the time that was there said, yes, I could live there year-round. I was going through a divorce. We had just bought the house prior to the divorce, so that wound up being my permanent residence. And my son and I lived there year-round. And as you said, we don't pay taxes, but there's no service that we get. Our snow removal is done within the park, not the township. Our trash removal is done by a private company, not the township. So I don't see how we're using free taxpayers' money just to live there.
My answer to that is that if you have a problem and you call the police, the municipal police will come to your home.
Exactly.
If you have a fire, the fire department will come to your home. So maybe you haven't had to utilize the services, but the services are available to you.
I understand that. But
You do
you're-
drive on our municipal streets, and you could use our municipal parks if you choose, or the library system. So there's a lot of municipal services that are available to you, whether you use them or not. That's your choice, like any other taxpayer would have that same choice. If they go to the library, the park, or, drive on public roadways, the taxpayers, maintain all those things.
Yeah, but we pay other taxes to support those, whether we're going to go purchase something or we're going to go invest in something. Those taxes do get paid.
Well, they don't come to the township, sir.
We shop in the township, so you can't tell me that they don't come up to you.
We don't get sales tax in state of New Jersey.
Well, in
Okay.
any case, I'm very disabled. I need double hip replacement, and I got
All right,
back.
one at a time,
very back
please.
I need back surgery on my lower back, and you're asking me to go find a house. I'm on disability. Where can I get to live somewhere for 4 months? I have nowhere to go. And November 1st, you're asking me to go, out on the street. You gentlemen can have your Thanksgiving in November, your homes. Where am I gonna go and have that? There's nowhere I can have that. And I really appreciate if you sat down and just look at our faces, not, a piece of paper that just says Egg Harbor River Resort. Look at our faces as I look at yours and say, Please help us. All we're asking is just to stay in our home. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Anyone else? Just your name, please.
My name's
Oh.
Jessica.
How you doing, Jessica? Last name?
Rodriguez.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. Seems like there's a little bit of contention between our landlord and you, which we're staying out of. Please let me finish.
There's none.
But if you can understand, you said that you told him multiple times. He's still telling us that we're fine. He's still telling us. He's working it out with you. You know he's not telling us anything. His lawyer's not telling us anything. I don't know. We're just, like, can't you just see us as humans and whatever you had, Paul? You know, look at with him. And my question is, you said there were other campgrounds, and that's part of the issue. I get it, I understand. You didn't really know it was a campground until, you know, you guys came in and told us. Are there people that are living there? Is that something that you checked into? I mean, is this gonna happen to somebody else? I mean, there are other areas that aren't in this township that are doing the same thing. So I really think this is an issue that local government, county government, state government needs to address, because this isn't the first time that this has happened, and it's not gonna be the last. I mean, we've been doing our due diligence, and there are other areas, other campgrounds that this is happening to. So if you could just see us as the people that we are. We have veterans, disabled, people that have sacrificed for our country, and they're going to be homeless. I mean, it's a lot of people that couldn't even make it tonight, going to be homeless.
Okay, thank you.
Charles McCarty. So I'm gonna keep this short. I thank you for your time. I grew up an Egg Harbor Township resident, graduated from Egg Harbor Township High School, went out, served for our country, came back. I moved in there because it's a park, it's a big park model. It's not a campground. I can't hook that up and take it out of there in November. Now, I'm not gonna be able to protect that thing in November. People can come in from the side yard, side wood stuff, loiter in there. That's what's a good thing about having us there. We protect the area, we spend our money in the township, we go out and eat in township. There's people delivering in there all the time, we're spending our money for the township. We're not just freeloading off the township. We want to be able to stay there because that's where we made homes. We put decks on there, we put additions, I mean, they're not campers, you can't just tow them out there. We understand you're coming from, it's a campground, and we understand that, but we can't pull that out there and have it somewhere safe for the winter time. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Anyone else?
Yes.
Go ahead, come on up.
I'm Rodney Williams. I live in the campground. And I'd like to say that whoever made this ordinance, he has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, given his assent to acts of pretended legislation. Now I bring up Article 14 from our Constitution. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction of equal protection of the laws. This is a crime, it's injustice, it's criminal behavior. To make an ordinance like that, an obstruction of justice. It's an obstruction of what our Constitution, what Jefferson, what the Declaration of Independence stood for, what all our major documents stood for. This is not the United States of America. Maybe this is communist Russia or someplace like that, but this is not the United States. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Sue, and I also...
Last name, Sue?
Ang.
Ang.
And I do reside also at the community. And I know that we're zoned as a campground, but we're not a typical campground. Our homes are too wide and tall to go up the street like a camper. We don't have campers in there. We don't have tents in there. We have Florida rooms. We have decks. We have gardens. We're not a typical campground. We're probably the exception in Egg Harbor Township. There are other places outside of Egg Harbor Township who resemble us, or we resemble them. We also pay our lot rent to the owner of the park, who in turn does pay taxes to the township and to the state. So we're a little bit of a different community. We're tight, we look out for each other. We're pretty much self-contained. We have water testing done according to DEP. The septic gets tested according to DEP. I mean, we do fall under categories for inspections. Our pool gets inspected, we have trash removal, we clean up our own streets. But we're pretty much self-contained. We don't bother anybody.
Ms. Ang, are you the manager of the campground?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been the manager of the campground?
I've been there, I believe it's 2 years.
Okay, do you have anything to do with the renewal of the licensing for the campground?
No, I do not. I have nothing to do with the business decisions. I'm just the day-to-day. I also was not aware of the 93 or 2006 issue.
But you're
with
aware
the
that,
court.
you're aware that that it is a campground. It's zoned as a campground and licensed as a
I am
campground.
So Mr. St. James, when he hired you, didn't tell you your responsibility from November 1 to
No,
March 1
I
was to make
was
sure no
not
one was
aware
there
of
Monday
that.
through Thursday?
I was never told that.
This to respond to your issue over the type of campground you have. When Mr. St. James went to court the first time in the early 90s, it was because he was moving in these modular type of units. And the resolution the township had with him is as long as they fit on your approved campsite, it doesn't matter if it's a canvas tent, it's a trailer, it's a pop-up Coleman, or it's a permanent structure. You just have to get your permits for that. So that's why he chose to have it, and he chose to market it as a resort and not as a campground. And that's his choice as a property owner to do those things. So he does get permits to install the units, but he also was aware of what the code said and chose whatever reasons to look the other way and not enforce it. But as Mr. Friedman said to one of the earlier residents, is you really need to seek out counsel of an attorney as a group, because as Rodney said, you have the right to protect your interest under the Constitution, and your interests are being violated by the person who may misrepresent it to you what you were able to do or not to do there. So
I just wanted to bring it to the committee's attention that we're not the typical campground. Like, we don't have pop-ups and we don't have movable homes. And a lot of us are either senior citizens, retired, can't afford to go anyplace else.
but that is why the owner came to the township after we resolved the first litigation in the 90s with him and got the township to change the ordinance because of the investment that he made and other people made to buy these permanent units, that they would be able to come down on weekends, extended holidays, Thanksgiving, New Year's, Christmas, and enjoy the campground at other times. We're one of the few municipalities in New Jersey which allow any type of activity camping between November 1 and March 1. And the owner of the campground was the persuasive one to say, but I added these new type of units. People can come this in the middle of winter on weekends and enjoy and get away and come down here, and we have casino gaming and we are a resort area. And the township committee at that time said, fine, we'll let your people be the weekend, but they don't pay taxes on their homes, and you know, there's services that they're not paying for. But if they're going to use it as a campground on weekends in the wintertime, we will allow them to do that. So where he took it from there and what he represented to all the people in the room is really between him as the owner of the park, or the campground, whatever you like to call it, and yourselves.
Over the last 2 years, have you acting on behalf of the owner, have you presented lease agreements to prospective
I
tenants?
have, but everything goes through the owner of the park for any kind of formal approvals.
Are you familiar with the contents of those lease agreements?
Yes,
Is there language, we don't have what the lease agreements say, but is there language in there that advises the prospective tenant that there's a campground that could only be occupied at certain times of the year?
it says in our lease that there's two different costs. One is seasonal, one is extended stay. And if you pay the extended stay, you can be there anytime you wish.
So our campground regulations are not attached to the document that people sign?
No, I
Okay.
was never aware of them.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all
Thank
for
you,
your time.
Susan. Yes, sir.
I do suggest that for other prospective tenants that come before you, that you fully advise them of what the laws are.
Absolutely. In fact, people have come in to look to purchase, and we've told them moving forward, they're seasonal only.
Okay.
So,
Yes,
you
sir.
know, we'll-
Good evening, Jeffrey Thompson. I'm a resident of 135 Constant Lane. Again, I was represented it was represented to me as a year-round type situation when I bought there. I don't know where I'll go if I have to leave, along with everybody else here. I just wanted to bring up a previous case that happened in Woodbine, which is the Carol Inn Apartments, where the residents of those apartments or those homes were allowed to stay there, and they were grandfathered in. And I wish that the committee would see its way to looking into something of that nature.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Come on. Well, you go first, yeah. Yes.
Thank you for hearing us, guys, and I understand this is probably grueling at this point, but I'd never forgive myself if I didn't say something. I'm sure we all feel the same way.
Go ahead.
Andrew Riddles, and tonight was beautiful, by the way. My father is retired, and my brother is a federal officer, and I served the community in a different capacity. My wife and I, about a year ago, took over a church in Quinton Township. So we actually had a house in Cape May Courthouse, sold the house with the intention of me being more available for my pastoral duties, and this was the perfect opportunity for us. This was about 6 months ago. So we were there for about 2 weeks, and I got a letter saying I could no longer, we literally just sold our house. So I just wanted you guys to see our face and hear our story, and mine in particular. But obviously there's a lot here. I have children, they're all under the school age right now, and we have the intention of homeschooling, and who knows what the Lord will bring in the future for me anyhow. But I know that right now we love this place. It's very safe for our children. Where we were before was not. And this was very calculated for us to move here for various reasons. And it's an amazing place with amazing community, a very valuable sense of community there. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Thank you, all of
How are
you.
you?
My name's Lori Greenberg Esquire. I'm representing the campground, the owner. And Mr. Friedman, I do want to apologize. The reason I haven't called you back yet is you said to me, you need certain things, and we're trying to put them together. And I didn't want to come see you until I had them together. My client bought this property about 43 years ago. At that time, there was 120-some homes living full-time. He has since greatly reduced that, bought them himself, and greatly reduced the number, and I'm not sure what the real number is now, but you've seen these people. And what we're asking, all of us, is to grandfather the people in. I think Mr. Friedman had asked me to come get together files so we could look at each person and make a decision. And we do ask for a private meeting so that we don't have to air each person out, so that we can try to get some kind of relief. You've seen the people, we've got veterans, we've got disabled people. What we're asking for is not for you to change your ordinance, just to grandfather people in. Anybody in the future will not be there full-time. The leases that they have say this isn't supposed to be their permanent residence. People are living there. And we paid a significant fine to the town, and we reached out to the town and said, we want to work with you, and we want to meet with you. Mr. Friedman did say he would meet with me, and he wanted me to put together certain information. So that's what we're asking for, is number one, think about giving us a grandfathering for the people that we have. And number two, meet with us all privately so we can try to resolve a situation rather than throwing, I'm not sure how many, but let's say 40 families onto the street. And that's what we're asking for. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd like
Mr.
to
Friedman,
comment.
go ahead.
We've heard the expression grandfathered in numerous times tonight. And the expression of grandfathering something in means that there's a certain situation that's in place, and then a law is passed, which then changes the situation, and you can't, those people that were there before the law changed, they're the ones that are entitled to grandfathering in. That's not the situation here, is it? Here, we have an ordinance that was in place before any of these people moved in, before any of these people started taking occupancy there on a full-time basis. And the blame for that, as far as we're concerned, as far as I'm concerned from a legal position, is squarely on the shoulders of your client. Because your client allowed these people to move into this location and continue to occupy there after November 1st. Now, when the township learned that that was the situation recently, we didn't go after those people. We went after the offender, and the offender is clearly your client. And should the township again decide to enforce its ordinance, which it is wholly within its rights to do, it will be against your client. So the township doesn't need to make amends for anything. Your client needs to make amends. And I say that as a preface to any discussion that you and I engage in going forward.
Well, my client's still reaching out for relief. The township really didn't enforce this for a long time. There's a concept called estoppel. But I'm not trying to push that. What I'm trying to do is come forward in what we call under chancery fairness and find a way to resolve a situation that's very difficult. And we're asking for your help. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Friedman, what is your suggestion here?
My suggestion is that, first and foremost, is that the citizens should, committee decide to seek out legal advice from an attorney to represent them, and that for that person to then get in touch with me to sit down and have discussions about what their options are. I would rather do that with legal counsel rather than with the 30 or 40 residents individually, because you're all basically similarly situated to a great extent. And you might not understand all the legal ramifications, especially if our discussions don't go to your liking. You need to know what your options are. I say that as an attorney, both as a private attorney as well as counsel to this township committee. Secondly, I will engage in discussions at the request of Ms. Greenberg, and I will require her to produce documentation on the circumstances as to how you to occupancy of those properties. And I will, based upon that information, be able to advise my client, this committee, as to what their options are as far as proceeding. At all times during those discussions, I will bear in mind who is responsible for creating this situation and who is the victim of the situation. And this township committee, I believe, would agree with that viewpoint. Nevertheless, as far as I know, the township has no intention upon changing its ordinances to accommodate Mr. St. James. But an accommodation to the tenants is possible. I make no promises because I don't speak on behalf of the governing body.
Okay. Yeah, I want to wrap this up. I mean, we know the situation. Go right ahead, ma'am.
My name is Judy Allensworth, and my question is, the realtor that sold me the place,
Man, when did you
She-
buy it? I'm just curious.
no, it
How
was-
many years ago?
I bought it from a real estate.
Yeah, when?
1 year, May.
Okay,
I've been here for a year.
okay.
And
Go ahead.
I confronted her and asked her if she knew that this was going on. You know, she probably's not a friend of mine anymore, but I just feel like, do these realtors know this? There's a lot of different realtors in there with all the homes for sale right now. Are they all aware of what's going on, that all of a sudden we're told that we're, for, you know, 4 months out of the year, we have to be out of here? I moved from North Carolina as a widow and came here, sold half my furniture to come and enjoy this. My
They're
aunt
lic-
my aunt and uncle owned Sharry's Boat Works for centuries. My aunt was 102 years old, and that was one of the reasons why, because of the beauty of this state. And I came back, and I'm glad I am here, but I don't really want to be kicked out either. But I wonder if these realtors know this.
It's an answer to your question. If
Yeah.
they're a licensed real estate agent in New
Yes.
Jersey, it's their business to know.
Yeah, Berkshire is a real estate all over Ocean City, all over this town. And Weinhardt or whatever, they got a house right next door to me. And he wasn't aware of it. And Paul St. James, all right, when you commit a crime, anybody out here commits a crime, they're locked up and they're hit. Well, why isn't this man being, doing all this to us? Why isn't he being locked up? And why isn't there a big jury about him? Because I don't know how he can sleep at night doing this to people. I don't really. You know, you all have a wonderful job and you're all trying to make this town, you know, and do your job right. But that's how I feel. I just don't feel this man has told us the truth. Even our manager, she didn't know half of what was going on. Everybody in this whole park is so wonderful. And we're like a little community,
You are.
you know.
Okay.
You are.
I feel safe there. I don't feel like anybody's gonna come attack you or anything like that. We all help each other out. So I'm just speaking my piece.
Thank you.
I'm upset, I guess.
Thank you. All right, from this point forward, I would ask Mr. Freeman to ASAP to provide the information he should request so we can get a full picture with facts and a view of this situation. And that's all I'll really say because of the matter. It's a legal matter and see what comes out of it. But you need to get it to Mr. Freeman right away because we have to look at the facts and the information he's requested. And you might tell your client that he needs to produce what we're asking for.
Okay, if you close the public session.
What's that?
Close it.
No, yeah. One more last thing. I'm not gonna go back and forth.
Could we get this ordinance nullified, and could they get rid of it?
Not at this point, no. No.
Maybe in the future?
Well, we gotta see what the future brings, but Mr. St. James and the council has to provide stuff to our solicitor. It is a complex, if you read the ordinance, it's pretty cut and dry what the ordinance told him to do with his property of 40-some years. Okay, any, that's it, we're gonna club, anybody else? Go ahead there, Phillies.
Come up to the mic.
Come on the mic.
You have to come up to my.
And I wanna cut it off, I don't wanna keep hearing the same thing.
What we're looking for.
Just state your name and
My
where you
name is Terrence Early. I live at the campground. And what we're looking for is a little bit of help from you people. And our attorneys are usually cold, and you've lived up to every part of that. But the thing about this is, these people are gonna be out of a spot. They don't have no place to live. Some of them come from far, some of them come. Could you delay this for a year while the attorneys can talk this over?
No, I want the attorneys to talk right away.
Yeah.
And a delay or any kind of change, that will be up to our attorney to tell us what to do. They got, Mr. St. James has to work quickly. He knows about this, he's known about it quickly.
Well, I'm not worried about him, I'm worried about them.
Well, I'm worried about you, the residents too,
Everybody-
absolutely.
Everybody here being out of the
Sir,
street.
we get it, we are worried about everything, but this process needs to move so us five can have something to look at, to then understand, study, and then come to any kind of conclusion that we need to come to. So they need to start the process. ASAP.
I see they need to start it, but the sufferers are, boy.
Okay,
I'm just looking for some time, if it doesn't go our way, some time that we can get together.
Okay.
A couple months really isn't enough time to get together.
Okay.
We've both lived here for
very good.
15 years. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else in the public with a different topic? Seeing none? Go ahead, John, come on.
This has nothing to do with anything else. My name's John Ferry. I live on 219 Blackman Road. You were discussing about Blackman Road, so I thought I'd ask. I don't know exactly what will be the effect of Blackman Road itself? You're extending it, I heard you go down to the Parkway on Ocean Heights. Is that what I heard?
No, Ocean Heights will be, when they do the light, they will resurface Ocean Heights to the Parkway. Is that right, Mr. Miller?
Right.
Okay. The contract we awarded tonight takes us from right past the entrance to the Edmonds Nursery Farm,
Right.
whatever, down to probably the bottom half of Brookside Farms. And then we have approved another application tonight to take us from the end of Brookside Farms down to Ocean Heights Avenue to tie into whatever our joint project was the county. The county's going out to bid this summer to install the traffic signal at Blackman and Ocean Heights Avenue. As part of their scope of work, they're going to pave Ocean Heights Avenue all the way to the Parkway overpass, the two bridges.
And hopefully by the fall,
If I can, Mayor.
it look,
If
yes.
there are people from the campground, I'd ask you just to say a little bit longer, because I have some more comments for you,
Okay.
for your benefit.
Yeah. I know
John,
the
I
county-
mean,
know the county and the township.
We're hoping that by the fall,
Right.
the light will be up
Okay.
and that road will be in better shape than it is, Ocean Heights and Blackman.
Right. Well, since I only live a couple hundred feet from the corner.
I know we-
is the
yep.
what would be the change of Blackman Road? Is that just going to widen at the corner, or is that going to come further down the road?
It's just widening.
Yeah.
10-car lengths. From
Yeah, it's
the
not
corner.
in front of you.
They did acquire some right-of-way from Lang's and from the house on the corner, but it's only like 6 or 8 feet of
Each
width,
one-
so
each
that
side.
they could establish the shoulder.
I really appreciate it.
All right, John. All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Friedman.
Thank you. Just for the benefit of the residents, I've been fortunate enough to serve this committee for many years, and I had, other than silver hair. But I will say this, and you should know, Mr. St. James, the owner, is represented by attorney. He's looking out for his best interests, okay? I have a client, I'm looking out for my client's best interests. I cannot represent you, and I say that collectively. I cannot represent and make the arguments and make the threats, if that's what it comes to get the things accomplished that you want to be accomplished. That's why it is imperative that you seek out competent legal counsel and have them negotiate on your behalf, because they know the ins and outs of not only the factual, but the legal issues that are going to come up in this matter, and they're going to be in a better position to be able to advise you as to what the full scope and breadth of your rights are in the matter. So I don't want to mislead you to think that if we have a discussion one-on-one, that I'm going to be the good guy to you and telling you what you want to hear. You might be a witness in this case ultimately, and that I'm going to be questioning you on the witness stand, and that creates a conflict of interest. So that's why I'm loath to meet with any of you individually. It is a serious matter. We're sympathetic to your situation, but I can't stress enough, I need to negotiate with your legal representative and not with you, so that you have the most protection moving forward.
Okay, very well said, Mr. Friedman. Okay, seeing no, any, yes?
No,
I don't want to belabor, come on, real quick. I mean,
to make one small point, that our community is basically low income. And we could afford to go someplace for 4 months, we wouldn't need to hire a lawyer that we can't afford.
Okay, all right.
If there's any suggestions as to who might take this, we would appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else for the public on another topic or anything? Seeing none?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion. Second. Do we need a roll call? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, we'll move on to resolution calendar 248 to 271. Okay,
I'll make,
Thank you.
anyone with any suggestions on the resolution calendar 248 to 271?
I have nothing to
Frank, anything?
move.
No?
there.
All right, take a motion.
I'll make that motion. Second.
A roll call, please.
Ballas?
Yes.
Rivera?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Cromer? Yes. And Hodson?
Let's go to 272, resolution 272. Mr. Freeman, you want to read that, or the resolution?
272.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 272 is a resolution authorizing the renewal of an alcoholic beverage plenary retail club license for July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020 for the entity known as Craftsman Club, Hiram Abiff Lodge, number 16. Thank you, Mayor.
Motion to adopt resolution 272.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Okay, the motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Ballas?
Yes.
Rivera?
Yes.
Abstain.
Cromer? Yes. And Hodson?
Yes. I'll just follow right in chronological. 273, authorization and payment of bills pursuant to Exhibit A. Motion to adopt 273.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes. Ballas?
Yes.
Rivera?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Cromer? Yes. And Hodson?
All right, let's do the resolution 275 to 279 and an add-on. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Make a motion to combine and adopt 275 to 279.
Very good.
I'll second.
There's a motion made and second. Roll call, please.
Ballas?
Yes.
Rivera?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Cromer? Yes. And Hodson?
Yes. Township Committee report, and I'll start with Frank. What do you got, anything?
Well, now that everyone's gone, it was nice seeing a packed house here tonight. We have a wonderful police department here, new era with the new police chief, captain, lieutenant, sergeant, and some new officers. That was the highlight of tonight. You know, the low light is, hearing about this campground, and, we just want to work as best we can with you, Mr. Solicitor, to try and get this worked out as best possible for the township. Thank you.
Andrew?
Mayor, I'd just like to say that today we had the ribbon cutting of the Aviation Research Center, which you attended. I think we were all there. I didn't see Laura, but she promised that she was there. And I didn't
She was there.
I didn't see Joe, and we were all there. So, and I believe Peter was there as well. So it was nice to see some of our state. We had the governor there. We had some senators there. We had, it was mayors there. There was a whole lot of people, the freeholders. There was a lot of folks there. It was good to see folks in our hometown, in Egg Harbor Township, supporting this project. I think it's a good project for Egg Harbor Township, and I hope that this is one of, seven buildings that we
7 building
that we
sites,
hope
yeah.
to build. And I think this is a positive thing for Egg Harbor Township, bringing good salary jobs into our town, and we know that we need that desperately for our economy to keep on thriving.
Okay, very good. Joe?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Andrew, I'm glad you brought that up. I was sitting next to your dad, actually. We came up with a lot of good points.
I lost him. I was wondering where he went.
But it's true. It's a big positive for the county, and it was a good event, and they got one up, and hopefully it'll continue. I do want to say something to our township residents. We have an employee, Eileen Tedesco, 40 years. That is a tremendous accomplishment.
Yay.
And a great job for all of that time. And Peter, I know you like to be an unsung hero, but you have been exemplary in your position and the duties that you've carried out in 3 decades of serving this community. And to our police department, it's just a great police department. It's probably ranked the first in the entire state. And again, there's a transition in leadership, and it's smooth. But what struck me, as strikes my colleagues on this dais, is when you look at their continuous education that all of these members of the police department go through. A lot of them have master's degrees, and they have all kinds of specialized training, FBI academies and such. It's very impressive to see, and this town is served wonderful by it. So just wanted to do a shout out to all of those individuals that certainly deserve a bit of recognition tonight. And we will find a way to correct this other situation. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Joe. Laura?
I would like to congratulate all of the police officers and their promotions. We're going to be in good hands with Chief Mike Steinman. I'd like to give a shout out to Chief Ray Davis as he retires, to thank him for all the hard work that he's done and the level of accreditation he brought this department to. It's unprecedented here in the town, and just want to thank him for that. Today, I had the privilege of talking to Dr. Kim Gruccio, who is Superintendent of Schools, and I asked her to please send me the statistics for graduation for tomorrow night. So, Friday night, at 5 o'clock. And Andrew, congratulations, your son is graduating. He's one of them. But this is what she.
Audience.
Yes,
One
Mom,
person
too.
left in the audience.
No air horn.
But these are the stats that she gave me. We have, they're giving out 623 diplomas, 589 walking seniors, $13.6 million in scholarships were awarded to these students. The post-secondary plans, four-year college, 25%, or college, 58%. So that's 83% of the graduating classes going on to higher education.
Wow.
And that's something to commend the school for. Vocational school, 4%. 4% are going into the military, and we absolutely thank them. And 9% are going into the workforce. They do a great job over there educating our kids, and I just wanted to congratulate them. I think one of the best nights in the township, we all work together that night, is high school graduation. The police department does an exemplary job of getting traffic moving. They do a great job. The school has incredible coordination with parking. And I just want to congratulate them and remind everybody that school will be out as of Friday. So the kids will be on the streets having a good time. So just be careful when you're driving.
Pay the babysitters.
Very good, Laura. Just a couple of things that may be redundant. I want to congratulate all our police department promotions and hirees tonight. It's really an honor and a privilege to swear them in and into our police force that protects our community. Number one, as Laura reported, that's a good report. Those numbers are important for the graduation on Friday the 21st. It's a big day for a lot of our students to complete a high school here in the township, and it's good to see the numbers of them going on either to VOTEC, 2-year or 4-year degree, or even the military. The next gen today was quite interesting. There's 7 sites there. It's 55 acres that was property at FAA that's turned over to this project. The building is probably one of not a lot in this community as far as how well it's built, how nice it is, and so forth. And I hope that it gets off the ground quickly and really enhances our community along with the airport and the aviation that's out there that could come. And the next thing is congratulate Laura Fromer. As everybody knows, the ACOA is in our township, and we have a person that represents Egg Harbor Township's interest on the ACOA. And Laura now is referred to as a commissioner on the ACOA board, and that is good for us to have somebody there that lives in our township, serves on our governing body, and can look out for our interest when it comes to that big facility in our township. And final, and I might have missed one, but I want to wish everybody a great 4th of July. The birth of our country should be celebrated, and it will be. But this still is the best country in the world. And, enjoy the 4th, because we won't meet between now and after the 4th for our next meeting. And like Joe, and I think Frank and everybody else said, these are the difficult problems that we're faced with in the township. these poor people thought they were buying something that they didn't get. And we'll do our best through our council and whatever we can do to try to work it out so the residents aren't punished, but the owner will pay because he's not represented it correctly. That's all I got. Mr. Miller?
I actually have two positive things to report on tonight.
Good.
Our electric vehicle charging station grant, we got a letter approving that.
Great.
Who's going to drive it?
No, it's a charging
It's
station.
a
Yeah, I know.
charging station.
Who's going to drive the car?
You got to
I'm not going to buy one.
So I don't know if they were.
I don't want one.
We
Do you
applied
get
for-
one or two?
We applied for two, but the letter just says your grant was approved, so
Oh.
my inference is if we applied for two, we must got two funded. But they tell us we can't do anything until they send us a grant agreement and documents to sign.
Where's that going to go, Peter?
There was scheduled one to go in this parking lot, one to go in the community center parking lot.
Okay.
So if you have an electric vehicle, you go to the community center, you go plug it in.
Buy
And
one.
one thing we're gonna have to decide before we do it is, are we charging, a quarter for 5 minutes or some nominal amount to our cost of our electricity and, maintenance of the facility? So many municipalities that get the grant, you're allowed to charge for using it as.
They have a fee structure for that?
Yes.
Yeah. The Tesla sites over at the, by Bonefish, they pay to use those
Well, that
sites.
I know.
Is
Yeah, I'm
it
talking about
coming off the
municipalities.
grid or is it solar powered?
No, it's
Coming
the grid.
off the grid, we have to run a power line out of one of our buildings to power the thing, so it doesn't have a solar panel.
I don't think the
that
solar
does
can
it.
make the
So
power.
Once I get the grant agreement, I'll be back with some recommendation as to what the appropriate fee should be. If the person's buying gas, they're now paying $2.71 a gallon for it, so the taxpayer shouldn't be paying for the electricity to run their car for free.
No, no doubt.
The other good news is our West Atlantic City grant to wire and remove the additional motels out there. We got over hurdle number 1.
Oh, good.
Great news.
Awesome.
So our application for $2.3 million, they approved 10 projects in the state of New Jersey. We were one of them.
Very nice.
And that means that there, thing says, it's identified for future consideration. So we told you when we applied, we'll find out in May if we made it past round 1, and we'll find out in November if we're funded. Well, we made it past round 1. We're still in the running for the money. So I have my fingers crossed that, come Thanksgiving time, they're going to tell us that, we have the money.
What else do they need from us from now till November?
They didn't ask for anything else. I think it's their way. Well, one of the things is in the email was that they now have to meet with the congressional leaders and find out exactly how much money they're providing to FEMA for these different projects that they have. So ours was under what they call a repetitive loss program, and the amount it would cost them to fund our acquisition, elimination of those units is about 25% of what they have already paid out to date to these people on repetitive losses, and what they're trying to do is mitigate any future claims from these property owners.
Great way to do things. I mean,
Yes.
it's kind of like in that broad premise, Blue Acres and everything else. It's the right way to do things. Try to
So-
save federal
So,
dollars.
from an energy efficient, we're getting, EV stations, and we're one step closer to cleaning up West Atlantic City and the old hotels.
Great news.
Mayor, if I may be recognized?
Yes,
Yes,
Mr. Friedman.
I've asked, I'm requesting that we convene into a closed session.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll get there.
And before we do that, I just want to say congratulations to Eileen Tedesco for her service for the township for all of
It was your
these
birthday
years.
of 40 years.
I can't believe they hired somebody at 11 years old. It's just phenomenal. But personally, as a working relationship with you over the years, you have held yourself out as nothing but a professional, enjoyable to work with, never had any problems. And if I needed something,
In a friendly
you and your staff-
office.
You and your staff were able to get it, and I know you wear many hats in that department. And to be there day in and day out and do the job you do, it's a credit to you and really an asset to the township. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And your neighborhood, just for the record.
And Peter, for 30 years, you've been okay too.
Peter, were you
raised up
Peter,
neighborhood.
were you surprised?
Shocked.
It was,
Oh, good.
okay, good.
That
That's
was the
what the
goal.
intention was.
Peter, I'll reserve
Okay.
my comments for you in 10 years from now.
All right,
Well, before we go into closed session, can we
We're
do
not-
the approvals?
absolutely, that's where we're going.
All right.
You jumping ahead of me?
Yeah.
All right, a motion to approve regular meetings minutes of May 22nd Township Committee. All in favor?
Aye.
We need a motion, right?
Yes.
We need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
A second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion to approve closed session meetings minutes for May 22nd, 2019, the committee, Township Committee pursuant to Resolution 213 of 2019. Motion?
And I'll second it.
Roll call?
Ballas?
Yes.
Cafaro?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Romer?
Yes.
And Hudson.
Yes. Motion to approve the minutes from 23rd, 2019 Special Township Committee
So moved.
meeting. A motion?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. A motion to approve closed session meeting minutes from May 23rd, 2019 Special Township Committee pursuant to Resolution 244 of 2019.
So moved?
A second? Roll call, please.
Ballas?
Yes.
Cafaro?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Romer?
Yes.
And Hudson.
Yes. A motion to approve departmental reports for the month of May 2019.
So moved?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the payroll in the amount of $1,983,087.38 for the month of May 2019.
So moved?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Freeman has indicated we need a closed session.
That'd be Resolution 274.
74.
Authorize the Township Committee convening closed executive session to discuss matters which may involve personnel or legal matters. Whereas the Open Public Meeting Act permits the exclusion of the public in certain circumstances, whereas the public body's opinion such circumstances exist, and whereas somebody wishes to discuss matters involving legal as follows: on legal Egg Harbor River Campground, anticipated disclosure 6 months, whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matters involving the confidentiality of the above no longer require that confidentiality, minutes can be made public, and therefore resolve the Township Committee, Township of Egg Harbor County, Atlantic State, New Jersey, is the public being excluded from this meeting.
Sold.
He's an auctioneer. A motion to,
Motion.
second. I guess we, roll call?
Ballas?
Yes.
Cafaro?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Romer?
Yes.
And Hudson.
Yes.